There's so many trials in life, but God is always there. And we just need to know how to lean on him and how to hear his voice, even when the word is frog. Let's listen in.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders, just a short, quick reminder that I do have a podcast course. So if you'd like to start your own podcast and share your own voice, I'll have the link below. All right, let's meet the speaker. Welcome, Giant Builders. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Our guest today is Pamela Ballew. How are you, Pamela?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Can you tell our guests a little bit about you and what you do?
Well, currently I'm a brick and mortar business owner. I own a Big Frog Custom T-shirts and more here in Waco, Texas. And what we do is we do garment decorating, mostly T-shirts. And we specialize in direct to garment, and then our 24-hour turnaround times. And then we have no minimums as well. So, and we also provide the art services for you and all of that. So that's what I'm doing currently. However, I have had two other businesses prior to this. And I am actually selling my business right now. I have a letter of intent on it right now. So,
Oh, you're selling the
Big Frog.
T-shirt, Big
Yes.
Frog? Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Well,
I'm
what are you going
I'm
to
s-
do?
I'm selling because the Lord has put it on my heart to write a book, to do some public speaking, to just go deeper into the women's ministry that I'm headed into. I'm the leader of the women's ministry at my church in Hubbard, Texas. So that's I just need the personal freedom in order to work for the Lord now.
All right. Well, how long have you been in Waco?
Well, originally I was born in Houston. I was raised in Waco. I was in Waco all the way up until I was about 14 years old. And at 14, my mom got a job in Compton, California.
No.
And so with that, she moved us to Long Beach. And that's where I was for quite some time. I was there for about 4 or 5 years. And then when I was a teen, I moved back to Texas, but this time I was in the Gulf of Mexico and I was there for about 10 years. And then I moved back to California. I went to Fresno, California. I was there for about 10 years. And then I went to Arizona. I was in Prescott, Arizona for a while. And I worked for a flight school in Prescott, Arizona. We had a partnership with a school there, and we taught people how to fly helicopters.
No.
And I started off there in 2011 as a temporary receptionist, and I was making $9 an hour. Well, over the course of the years, I ended up being part of the management team, and I had a lot of responsibilities, and I was making 90,000 a year at the 12th year. And however, I noticed myself being to where I felt like I hit a ceiling. I couldn't really go any further with my pay at that job. So I always had it on my heart to be a business owner. So while I was in Arizona, I did do that. I got my first business. I worked out a deal with a gentleman who had a bath and body boutique, but it was all natural, like lotions and bath bombs and soaps and things like that. And it was in downtown Prescott. Then I had that for about a year and a half, and I was working my job full time. At the same time, I was doing both. Then an opportunity came up for me to own an Aveda salon. So I also acquired that on top of, and I had all of those three things going. Um, and the goal was I was trying to leverage my way out of my career and into being a business owner. Well, in 2019, my boss at the flight school asked me if I would move. And he wanted me to move to Waco, Texas. So this is 33 years later. And I was at a place spiritually where I could really look at this and go, okay, the Lord is working here somewhere in my life here because here I am. I have two businesses now. I have, I have adult children. I have grandchildren. Like I've been here for 10 years. I love this area. I've got a lot going on here. And now I'm being asked to return to Waco. And in Waco, when I was a child, I um I lived in a really rough upbringing and we didn't have a whole lot. The Salvation Army serviced us with some Christmases and some Thanksgivings. We were drinking powdered milk, government cheese, the whole thing. We were on food stamps. Um, we had a lot going on financially, but also my mom was being abused by her drunken husband. Us kids were, not really being cared for. It was a really tough situation. And so for the Lord to ask me to just walk away from everything and return to Waco, Texas, I'm just looking at it like, really? Why would we do this? However, I thought, well, okay, let's look at it. So I called this woman, her name is Mary. She was actually a friend of my mom's, and the way my mom knew her was because my mom worked for her in Waco before we moved. And it was a leather shop that she worked at. And so the leather shop, my mom just helped her with the bookkeeping. She helped her with, tooling on leather products like belts and things like that. And my mom helped her do that for probably 4 years before we moved.
Mhm.
She did that, and then she also did some waitressing, and that was how she made her living. It wasn't very much, but that's what she did. So over the years, they kept in contact, and my mom passed away in 2011, but she asked me to get a hold of Mary and let her know what was going on and all that. And so that was the last time I had talked to Mary was in 2011. So in 2019, I find her number, I call her up, and I said, "Hi, it's me." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, last time I talked to you," she was like, "Wow, it's been a while." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I said, I was thinking about maybe coming back to Waco, and it was supposed to be temporary. It was only supposed to be for a year. Just he wanted a manager here, and he thought that I'd be a good fit for it. So, and he said, "A year, I need you to commit to a year." And I was like, "Okay." So while I was thinking about it, like I said, I just started asking her some questions like, "What is it like in Waco now?" And those types of things. She goes, "Well, I can get you with one of my friends and maybe they can tell you about what the real estate's like and that kind of thing." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Well, I was thinking about tiny living, maybe getting an RV or something like that." And she goes, "Well, I have an RV space on my property." And I said, "Oh, okay. Do you have pictures or anything like that?" And she goes, "Well, honey, I'm 76 years old." And she goes, "I could fall over." She said, I'm not that good with my camera." She goes, "You're going to have to get a hold of one of the boys." And I said, "Okay." And then it was almost like click. Then she hung up the phone. We said our goodbyes real quick. And then after that, I'm just looking, going, wait a minute. I don't have their numbers. It's been 33 years since I even seen her boys. So social media, I used that as my tool to try to find them. And I found two of the brothers on social media. And on July 7th of 2019, I sent out a message and I said, "Hey, it's me. Remember me from when we were kids? Can you send me a picture or something of the RV space?" And I just it was just a little paragraph, just kind of saying, "Hey, what's up? I need that picture. Get back to me. Here's my, you know. So on July 9th, one of the boys answered. And on July 31st of 2019, he came to Phoenix, Arizona, and we drove from Phoenix, Arizona to his house, and we got married on 12/12/2020. So
My goodness.
he was my childhood sweetheart,
Uh-huh.
and we were for about 5 months when we were kids, we were dating-ish, you know, when we were kids. And we hadn't seen or talked to each other for 33 years, but the Lord reunited us, and he is my kingdom spouse. And so with that, I did come permanently back to Waco, and I did do the job that I needed to do at the flight school. Um, and I did have the other one, the salon went to my ex-husband, but the Bath and Body Boutique, I did leave that open all the way up until March of 2020, just before COVID, I closed it. So I made a very good choice there. But then I was then feeling myself back in that space of, wow, I've got this career. I've hit a ceiling. I'm not able to go any further here with this, you know. Um, which my husband is very successful. He has a business that he's had for over 20 years. And I thought, well, am I going to help him with his business, or what's going to happen? Well, I started looking around, and the Lord actually showed me two businesses. The first business he showed me was uh like one of those mailer places that you go, like for FedEx
Hmm.
and all of that, and you can ship something to FedEx, USPS, UPS, you know, just one of those shipping stores, and you can do some printing and different stuff there. And the thing about that one was, and my husband and I were looking at it together. But that one had only been open for a year, and there wasn't any type of owner benefit to that business that I could see. And it seemed a little risky because it needed some more growth and things like that. So and she wanted 150,000. So I thought that was a little like on the high for what it was and where it was at and things like that. So with that, my husband and I talked about it, but we thought maybe we would do it, but he was kind of dragging his feet. Well, because of that, we didn't act quickly. And because of that, she actually contacted me and said, hey, I got two cash offers for more than asking. And so I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take one of those. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, about for a half a day, I was bumped. You know, I was just like, oh man, and I was kind of like upset and bothered with my husband because he didn't act quickly and that kind of thing. But the Lord has this way of like warming you up to something. And he'll do that with me, where he's got something, he's just kind of seeing, are you paying attention? Because I'm ready to do something for you here. And so since I was already in that position and already open to receive, then he said, okay, she's ready. So about a week and a half or 2 weeks later, after that deal didn't happen, I heard from the Lord, and he said, look again. And so I looked again. This time when I looked, I found the Big Frog franchise, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And it was listed for less than the other business. And I thought, well, a franchise, that's good, because then you can lean on the franchise and it's already done up for you. You just go in and manage it and that kind of thing. And the only thing I didn't like was the name Frog, because I thought, well, frog, that's like a plague in the Bible. So I thought, no, let's not. I have to think about this and I have to pray about this and find out, is this real, Lord, is this really from you? I just wanted to make sure. And at the time I was going to a Thursday night Bible study, and I just so happened at the Bible study, we had a guest speaker. She came in and she started telling us how to hear from the Lord. And so she paired us up all in pairs, and we all get in our pairs. And I got paired with a woman who was probably like 71 years old, somewhere in there. And we do the exercises that the speaker was telling us to do on what we're going to hear from the Lord. And the speaker, preface it by saying, you may not understand what's happening here, or what you're hearing might sound really strange to you, or very weird to you, but go ahead and say it anyway, because it's from the Lord and you're not going to understand it. It's not for your understanding, it's for the other person.
Mm.
So my partner looked at me and she goes, I do have a word for you, but it's a little weird, it's a little funny. And I said, well, ma'am, if you have a word for me, please tell me what it is. And especially at this point, because I'm in my mind back and forth on, I'm pretty sure I want to do it, but I still have this question and I needed like a confirmation, so I was like, I was looking for that, I needed something. Well, she looked at me and she said, FROG, fully rely on God. And so
Aw.
when she said that, I was just like, I almost fell on the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, he confirmed that for me. So I have had my business for about a year and a half. But the Lord is asking me to sell. And so I thought, wow, that wasn't very long for me to have. But, he does give you your heart's desires. He will do that. And what he's asking me to do is to sell this so that I can have the personal freedom to be able to do the work that he'd have me do for him in his kingdom,
Mhm.
which the work that he's asking me to do is to have a YouTube channel, have an online presence, to minister to other women who might be in my type of a position where they're in a professional setting and they are hitting a ceiling. And, some of the other things that had happened whenever I was growing up, like I said, with the abuse from my mother, one of the first things I did whenever I came back to Waco was I called that family abuse center.
Mhm.
And I haven't gone yet, but I got myself wrapped up in this business and I haven't had time. But this is what I mean about personal freedom. The personal freedom in order to go over there and do what the Lord's asked me to do, which is to speak to those children who are in the exact place that
Mhm.
I was all those years ago, in that little bitty room with their scared mom and their scared kids, and to tell them, this is just a season, and you will be able to get through this. And I've always had faith, but my faith has deepened over the last 15 years, and it just gets stronger and stronger every day. But I have a Bible that I was given whenever I was 4 years old that I still have today. I'm 52 years old. And I've carried it through with me through all of the tragedy, through all of everything, the good times, the bad. And there was a reason for that. The Lord has always been present in my life, and he's always been by my side. And now I feel like uh I'm headed to the promised land. I'm finally in that space where I'm comfortable with just doing what the Lord asked me to do. And I'm bold for change, and I'm being obedient. And that's really what I'm striving to do.
So in this time for your future, do you feel God giving you like really specific steps and plans, or how do you feel your future? How are you going to move forward?
Yeah. I do see him giving me specifics. I do have some specific things that he has laid out for me. In my store, I have an opportunity to minister to people, and the Lord brings all different types of people in my store for me. He's brought two folks in here that have written their own book, and that's saying, yes, that's confirming, yes, you are going to write a book. Yes, you are. But also he's brought a woman in that she works over at the juvenile center for females. It's like a girls juvenile
Mhm.
facility, and they don't have any type of ministry happening there. So, and they've asked for it. So that I know that is a step I can move in, a direction I can move in. That's on the plan, the also just going more into the public speaking, that's on the plan. On June 22nd, I am organizing a women's event at our church, and I am doing the public speaking. There are two other speakers that I have in attendance, but I've added myself as well to be able to give my testimony. So and I think possibly, having this here with you helps me to kind of warm up for that and to kind of have a more of a sense of what that'll be like too. So he is organizing all of these steps for me for sure.
So what do you think God wants you to do in writing a book?
In writing the book title he gave me is Be Bold for Change, Obedience is the Key. And the thought process there is that as believers, we have faith, and being faithful is very important. Um, but obedience is even more so important a lot of times. When the Lord is putting it on your heart to do something or to say something, to take action is very important. The reason why I told you about the story of me returning to Waco after 33 years is because that was a huge change, and it was an abrupt change. It was my life changed overnight, um, practically, um, from July 7th to July 31st. That is very quick to change your entire life, you
Mhm.
know. And I walked away from a lot of things, and I was bold for the change.
Mhm.
And my life is so good. Everything is so good. I found my lifetime match. Um, my husband was single for 17 years before we got married. Uh, I've been married before a couple of times. So for me, I was having a hard time making good decisions for myself in that area. So I needed the Lord to intervene and make that decision for me. And I am so grateful for that. We live on a ranch out in the country. We have 145 acres out there. We have some cattle, and I've got a horse. And, we're very, very blessed. And I'm living a very blessed life. But now I just want to, it's just my desire to work for the Lord now. It's my desire to um, retire from the secular uh, worldly thing that we're all told that we're supposed to do, and now just um reach people and bless people and do what the Lord asked me to do.
Oh, that's a wonderful. That's just amazing.
Mhm.
So tell me, listeners, who could help you? I would assume like women who might be organizing an event for Christian speakers. Anything
Mhm.
else that out there, like a listener who could help you take your steps towards God?
A listener who can help me.
Mm-hmm.
A listener who can help me. That's interesting. I guess if there is a listener who has it in their heart to help me, it would be to help me understand how to do the speaking events, and maybe, because that's something I haven't done yet, is the public speaking.
Yeah.
In the kind of sense that I feel like the Lord's pulling me to do, to be on big stage. I don't know exactly how to maneuver that. I don't have a network for that. So if anyone wanted to reach out and help me with that, I would be super
Okay.
grateful. Yeah.
Right. We need her scheduled on some big stages and have to help her to outline that process. There we go.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, Pamela, I am so proud of you. You know, I think back, I mean, I think to the part where when you started in Waco and how hard that was,
Right.
and yet you came back to Waco,
Yes.
and probably those memories were probably haunting you
Yeah.
in that same town.
They did. The memories actually did haunt me for a lot of years, but over the last 15 years, I had done a lot of things internally to work through all of that. And um, I just did different kind of exercises, mind exercises um, to help myself not think about those things and to change how I thought about them. And it's very difficult work, and it takes, you have to really be after your thoughts
Yeah.
and to make sure you're not trespassing, right? Because that's what you're doing is when you're going back on your thoughts on those old dirty memories, you're trespassing then.
Mhm.
We don't want to think about those. There's no reason to really. It's part of your story. You know it happened, but to dwell on it is not good. And
Mhm.
so what I do when I get those types of thoughts, which is rare nowadays, but when I do get those, I just remind myself to redirect my thoughts on Jesus,
Yeah.
to redirect my thoughts on the goodness of God and on gratitude and things like that. So that does take a lot of work. It's
Mhm.
very hard to do, but it can be done.
It can be done.
Definitely. Yes.
With
Mhm.
God's power, it can be
That's
done.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, Pamela, thank you so much for sharing your story. I just look forward to seeing how God's going to use you. I hope we can reconnect maybe in 6 months or a year, and you'll have
Yes, ma'am.
all these cool things that you've added into your life.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm at the very beginning of breaking through and getting to go out and work for the Lord. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do.
Great. All right. All right, giant builders. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.